How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Congrats on this third season of your show. You play a father of three. This
Yes,
is you
I do.
there.
Yep.
And you did not make it look like you. You decided to go a different direction.
Yes, I did. That's Frank Murphy. Yeah, loosely based on my dad, because everybody watches that and goes, "Did your dad do this? Did he do that?" No, it's loosely based because I wanted my family to be able to watch it and not, be mortified. So.
And do you enjoy? Are there things that you find you can do in animation that you couldn't do in live action?
Yeah, because a lot of the, when I try to do live action shows, they would never pick them up. Everything I wanted to do, they'd be like, "That's too mean. Kids will cry," and, all the stuff that they say. But, nobody cares about animated kids, so it works out fine. Like, nobody can be like...
More often than not, they're not. That's adults being the kids, the voices.
Yeah, so it's it kind of works out. I know, but I've always, my whole career has kind of just been, just off to the side. So no one really pays attention to me, but enough people do that I stay in the business. So
it's a nice place to be.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
is.
I'm certainly glad. You have a 2-year-old yourself now. Congratulations.
Yeah, she's going to be 2 next month. Yep.
That's fantastic. And you're turning 50. And Turned 50, and your next special is called 50. How are you feeling at 50?
I feel good. I mean, I haven't drank in like 10 days, which is like... It's boring, but, you wake up, your stomach's flat. You're like, all right, this isn't that bad. But, no, I obviously became a dad late at 48, so I got to make sure. I got to be there for at least 30 years to make sure, she doesn't marry a jerk. And then, then I can just kick off, and that'll be it. Happy holidays, everybody. There you go.
You're
very environmentally sound.
Oh, you mean getting out at 70 is environmentally sound?
No, 80.
Oh, at 80.
I'd be 80.
Gotcha.
I got to go to 80. And then me and my wife, 2 people, only created 1. And then we die before she makes anybody, right?
Yeah.
No more traffic, like, produced by us. That's how you got to do it.
That's great. I feel like you should get a free plot if you do that.
You should get a tax break.
Yeah.
You should get if you don't create any people, like, you should be like a hero. They should have like a parade for you.
Because it goes the opposite direction now, of course. You get a tax break for the more kids you get. So you're saying it should go the other direction.
Yeah, no more kids. I'm anti-kids. They need to be stopped. No, I don't know.
Are you, I've heard you're thinking about going back to church.
Yeah. I don't believe in any of it, really. And my church, I feel like I'm going there, I'm helping to pay for a legal team. So I don't want to go, no, they only raped kids. Come on, here we go. You're not against that, are you? Jesus Christ. I never understood why people groan that. No, he brought it up. I didn't do it. So I'm against it, if you were confused about what I was saying there. So, but then every other religion just seems too far down the line. They got the giant book, and I never read the one in my religion, so I'm not doing that. But then I can't go to like some, like those new groovy ones where everyone's just dressed in regular clothes. Like, hey, man, everybody gets to share. It's just like, I can't do that, so I don't know. I just think it reminds you to not be, an ass.
Do you think that
like
maybe
once a week you just kind of go there and you sit down, you think about your week or whatever, as the person tells all the, stuff that's hard to believe.
Is it because you're a dad? Is having a child now why you're being reflective and thinking of...
No.
Yeah.
I never had that moment where I had a kid. I hate those people that have kids and then they become this new person and they pretend like they weren't this, this guy doing keg stands and driving drunk or whatever the hell you did. It's like, no, I was a jerk. So I'm not gonna try to become somebody I wasn't. But it was just, no, I'm doing well in this business. You start selling tickets and you start feeling like you're kind of living a slothful, more gluttonous, like, what am I doing? Smoking this cigar and drinking this high-end hooch. Who are you? You had a paper route. Go back to church, you idiot.
You're going to Europe to do stand-up in Europe. And you're also going in the winter.
Are you one of those Americans that just automatically thinks they're smarter over there? Because you got to go, because everybody American knows, oh, my God, the food and the people are so enlightened. You go over there, it's some idiot eating fish and chips, screaming about soccer or whatever. It's like, I know that guy. I've seen that guy.
Yeah, it just
it's like everybody's over there in like lab coats figuring stuff out. They're not. Everything's so much older and so much cultured. They still get on social media and trash each other.
Are you going to any places? You've obviously toured a lot over there before. Are you going places you've never been?
Yeah, this is like a thrash. I'm going through like Eastern Europe, like Estonia. I'm doing Prague, Bosnia. Poland is a big one I wanted to go to. And yeah, so.
Would you go in with an expectation? Do you think to yourself, oh, a Bosnian audience will like this part of my act? Or
No.
you just go in and do exactly what you would do?
I act like I'm right here. Because if you go over there, the first time I did London, like I was just in my head the whole time. I'd have like a joke coming up about like, and it involved a squirrel. And then in my head, I'd be like, do they have squirrels over here? Did I see a squirrel? Is this gonna bomb? And I would be like freaking out. And then I swear to God, you pull back and then they pull back and then it just becomes like this staring contest. So I just act like I'm here. I use references, I use slang, and I just go until it bombs, and then I make fun of it that they didn't get it, and then I just go again. But I've gotten some of the funniest. I was in Stockholm, Sweden one time, and I was on stage, and there was some guy, saying, all right, what do I do after this? Where should I go? Blah, 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 blah. And I just hear this guy in the crowd yells out, he goes, come to my house, they'll have a party. And I was just like, yeah, I think I'm going to skip that one. I don't think I'm going to meet you anywhere, buddy. But they had a great sense of humor. And I remember when I did Stockholm, Sweden, I came out and I said, hey, it's great to be here in Switzerland. And they all laughed, thinking I was joking, and I just played it off. I was like, oh. So anyways, but
do you feel a bigger rush? Is there something, when you think about all the small rooms you played here and, where you're from, and when you go over to a whole nother country, do you have a rush of like, I can't believe I'm killing in a foreign country in a big crowd?
Yeah, definitely. But I always have that thing, you have a job to do. These people paid for a sitter. They're coming out and that thing, and I'm always trying to get like better. But there's definitely, I've been starting to add some shows over there, and it's just like, it's YouTube, it's Netflix, like your stuff can just go international. And, I definitely feel blessed that I can go to these places, make a little bit of money, and, meet all these different people.
Can you enjoy yourself the day of? Like if you, obviously you're going city to city, so you don't have a lot of time. If you have a show at night in Prague, can you go out and enjoy a day in Prague, or are you in your head about the fact you got a show?
Probably not, because this is my first time there. The first time there is always just, you go there like, an animal, sleeping on a futon and all that. Then you build a following. Then I can bring my wife, She shows up once all the land's been cleared. All the hard work's done.
Yeah.
I says, I want to go. That seems like fun. I didn't bring her. She'd probably buy some stupid antique over there, and I got to figure out how to bring it halfway across the world. But I like it.
Yeah, you break even on the whole trip because you got an old piano.
The word that's going to kill me
Yeah.
earlier is going to be why. That's what my wife always does. Do you like this? Nah, I don't like it. It's a piece of don't get it. And then she's always just like, why? But I like it. And then it's just like, all right, buy it. No, but I want you to like it too. And it's just like, there's just no winning. But
you're a licensed helicopter pilot.
Yes, I am.
This is true. How long has this been the case?
I got it in 2014 or 2015. I can't remember.
What made you want to become a licensed helicopter pilot?
Conspiracy theory and living in Los Angeles.
What is the conspiracy theory that led you to it?
Well, I'm not into people think if you're into conspiracy theory, they just automatically think that you think there's lizard people and shapeshifters and, you have this aluminum hat on. No, I just sort of read up on the banking system and I'm like, this is kind of a giant Ponzi scheme. And, I was living in L.A. and I was just looking at it. It's like, you can't get out of this city even when it works. Like, what if the ever hit the fan? How do I get out of here? And it just seemed like up and out was the only way to do it. So,
yeah. Now,
so
I think
Yeah, but then I always watched Magnum P.I. and I always liked TC, and he flew that Huey 500, which I thought was cool. And so then, and I'm also sort of a closet gearhead where I don't know a lot of stuff, but I watch videos of people repairing engines, and I just really got into it. Next thing you know, I'm flying around in those things.
I guess my question would be, though, based on your escape plan, do you have your own helicopter?
No, there's a lot of holes in it.
This is not enough for your family.
I know, but I can only afford to. I just rent those things, man. It's just like, Yeah, that's the thing. There's another thing too. Whenever you watch like a zombie movie and some guy comes running up to like a plane, like a helicopter, I should say, and just starts it up like he's getting in like a, a Corvette and just drives away. That's not how it works. You got to warm the whole thing up. You'd have to kill half the zombies by the time you went through your pre-flight just to get up and out of there. So I didn't know that. So I went ahead and I did it. And I will tell you, it's one of the big accomplishments in my life because I was terrible in school. And but that was something that I was actually I wasn't worried about learning how to fly it. It was the ground school and all the rules you had to know. So, but I was so interested and it was so fascinating. I was actually able to do it. So,
I was lucky enough to see the show. You're fantastic in it.
Oh, thank you.
It's your Broadway debut, and
Yep.
you seem very confident on stage, as you always are. Was this a nerve-wracking experience?
Yes. I had never done it before. I didn't know what was going to happen. And, I'm working with some big guys,
Yeah.
Karen and Bob Odenkirk and all of these guys, Michael McKean and all of that. So, yeah, I was definitely nervous. I'm a comedian, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So getting thrown in there was, that was definitely something, I was stressing about it.
The play is open now, and we were talking about the fun is now you can just sort of look for ways to make it better during the rest of the run. You and Michael McKean are on stage in the beginning, and again, I'm used to seeing you on stage alone, and you guys just seem to have a wonderful back and forth. I mean, again, it's a David Mamet script, it's great, but you guys are making it your own. What's that process been like, sort of sharing focus with somebody?
It's been fun because Michael just like lobs it over the net. Like, it's like T-ball acting with that guy.
You were saying, when you started doing Broadway, people say, the matinee shows, those are worse audiences. But yesterday you did two shows.
People always go, oh, the matinee, here come the blue hairs. Like all these old ladies with broken hips are going to come in. And it isn't. You look out, it looks like this crowd. So I just look at it like, Yeah. So I just look at it like maybe they wanted to go to the Late Show, they didn't have the money. So I get amped up for those types of shows. I learned that as a stand-up comedian. You do 3 shows Saturday night, and when nobody knew who you were, 10 people would show up. And I used to go up with 10 people energy, like, oh, this is gonna suck. And then it did. So somebody finally told me, it's like, why don't you go on stage and make those 10 people wish they brought 10 people? So it gave you like a focus. So whenever we do shows like that, you know what I mean? Like the matinee show, or we're past the premiere.
Yep.
So all the, the famous people aren't coming by now. So then it's like, now what? It's like, well, do it for these people that are showing up, man.
And there was a buzz. There was a buzz last night.
Yeah.
It's a show people want to see. You do have time off stage as well, and I'm sort of fascinated by what an actor is doing in a Broadway show when they are not on stage.
Oh yeah, I have a nice part in Act 1, and then Act 2, I go out and I kind of tell everybody to go themselves, and then I leave, and there's like a half hour left. So I have this electronic drum kit, so I go down there in costume, and I play to AC/DC and Led Zeppelin. And then the show's on the TV, and I wait for Bob Odenkirk to hand some money to Donald Webber, and then I go, all right, I got to go upstairs, and then I do that. So my drum chops are they're moving up with the acting too. So it's been really fun.
You mentioned some bands, and I know that's sort of the taste of music you grew up with. You were at the SNL 50th, and you had to, I don't know, did you mend fences with Eddie Vedder? It seemed like a one-sided issue you had with Eddie Vedder.
No, I had no. Eddie Vedder, lead singer of Pearl Jam, that was the band that made me realize my youth was over, you know? So I was watching all the hair metal and all of that, in all those bands, and I was loving them, and they were on the countdown. And then Nirvana came in, and I was like, what's this? They always say Nirvana knocked it out. It was Pearl Jam. When Pearl Jam came, that was another one of those grunge Seattle bands, and that's when I was like, oh my God, this isn't ending. This is just gonna keep coming. And then all my bands, Skid Row and all of them were gone, and it was just these sad guys singing about being under a bridge and not being happy. And I'm like, what happened to nothing but a good time and ignoring all your problems with cocaine, right? That was all over. And so I got to sit next to him, and he was like, I did it good natured. I was like, man, I hated your band. You ended my thing, and he was cracking up. I go, do you know how long it took me to admit how great a band Pearl Jam is? Because now I love them. But it was like 20 years where I just like, I'm not listening to those guys.
That's a nice thing about you, Bill. I think after 20 years, you reassess every position you've held.
Yeah, I evolve.
But what, you have 2 young kids. What do you listen to? Because that's a fascinating choice. What kind of music do you listen to around the house with kids?
AC/DC. I raise them right.
Great.
I raise them right. And you know what's my favorite thing ever is my son, not only does he love AC/DC, he dresses up like him. I got him a guitar and he like watches the videos. He can do like his, you know, his Chuck Berry thing. And one of my favorite moments, I was laying in bed with my wife and my son woke up early when he was 3 and he started singing Sin City. First song, second side, Power Rage. 3 years old, he was down, this little voice, dun, 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 dun. And I'm looking, my wife doesn't know the song. I'm like, he's singing Sin City. I love this kid.
You also have a fantastic Hulu special came out recently, Drop Dead Years.
Yep.
Can you explain the title to us?
Oh, it was just something, you know, being 56, you know. These are like the years where it's a weird age as a man. You're too young to die of natural causes, but you're right in the sweet spot of dropping dead.
Right.
So dropping dead is like this uniquely male phenomenon. Like guys drop dead all the time. You know, women, you know, you don't go to your Pilates class and see women clutching their chests or whatever. For some reason, you know, it's weird because there's just as many out of shape women, but they don't seem to have heart attacks. I don't know what it is. They cry out their emotions.
Yeah.
But we, you know, we have a steak and some French fries for a couple of decades, and next thing you know, we're falling out of a golf cart, and that's it. There's no defibrillator to bring you back. They should have a defibrillator at the turn of every golf course. Instead, they just give you more stuff to have a heart attack, which is what's amazing about golf. So many people take up golf because their doctor says you have to start walking. You're a ticking time bomb. And then what do? They get a golf cart and they're smoking cigars and just, we're idiots. Corned beef sandwich.
This is
What
not
are you
enough.
going, 7-iron? 7-iron? Trying to get out of the way of your man boobs?
While you're swinging there, something I wanted to ask you about. So, fellow Red Sox fans, Yankees. New York Yankees broke out these new torpedo bats.
Oh, aren't those cool?
Yeah. What do you think?
You know,
What is your take? Fair play?
I love it. They should do stuff like that. They should turn it into golf. If you just, like, you know how if you suck at golf, like, you don't have to get better at it. If you're like a podiatrist and you're slicing, they just design a golf club to make it go straight. The Yankees should go up with those big red plastic bats that you teach a 3-year-old with. I don't know. It just seems, as a Patriots fan, you know, they're weighing our footballs, and these guys are going, hey, you know that part of the bat you're not supposed to hit it with? Let's make it the sweet spot also. So, I don't know. You know, listen, they're just a $275 million team that could, you know, they're trying. I will say it's funny to watch them not even remotely spend as much money as the Dodgers, and watching them completely outspend them is really a funny thing. Just, you know, as a fly in the wall, watching these two cities battling each other. You know, New York, everything's big, we spend the most money. And then LA's like, no, you don't. We're spending more than you are.
I love it, your intense accent work that you've developed about California and New York.
Yeah, while wearing a pink sweater, you know? You know, what's his face? I always do something to give the trolls something to talk about. So there's going to be a bunch of, he's wearing pink now on this liberal show. What is this, some woke? You know what's funny is white liberals are the ones that gave the definition of woke to whites on the right. So they don't, no white people really understand, it seems, what that word really meant when they took it from black people. So people on the right just think it means an insufferable, self-involved liberal douche. And they're not wrong if they're talking about a white person.
Right.
Running around crying about their pronouns is like the sun is like lighting the planet on fire. See, look how scared you are about pronouns. It's unbelievable.
They like when you talk
Meanwhile,
about the
the rest of the world doesn't want to take our food because they see what we look like. They don't want our beautiful chicken. They don't want our beautiful beef. Yeah, why is that? Why would you think?
It is just always the
Go
best.
to Europe and if you can, and eat a tomato and see what it really is supposed to taste like. This is a tomato?